What did the strange kid in your school do to make them so strange? She would always have conversations with herself during class, often while the teacher was speaking. One day she showed up and had shaved the front of her hair so that it looked like she had a horrible receding hairline. After a couple of weeks like that, she took to wearing Halloween wigs. She'd sometimes talk about her pet flying squirrel and nobody believed she actually had one, so she started trying to take him to school with her every so often and always get into trouble. During lunch she would sit by herself at a table, pick a person out and literally mimic their every move for the entire lunch period. Very bizarre. While on a school sports trip, we stopped at a Denny's for lunch. He sat at a table by himself and shouted at the waitress to get me another Coke. Be like 3 times. He ate his burger so fast that it got stuck in his throat, I think. No biggie. He just pushed it down his throat with his fork, to the horror of the other nearby diners. That's just one example. Please share more. I nearly spit out my drink from laughing. I didn't actually see him much in school, only at track practice. He wore the same uniform every day, cute off jeans and combat boots. Yes, he ran in boots. He either pretended the rest of us didn't exist, or he would glare at us and mutter under his breath. He threw up a lot, before, during, and after practice. I'm pretty sure he threw up that burger at the track meet we were headed to, in front of a bunch of other runners. The worst part was, he was a terrible runner. He insisted on distance races, but was not good at it. He would talk scary at the starting line and then literally sprint the beginning of the race. He dropped out of every race he ran because he was too tired to finish. Poor bastard. Someone walked in on him sucking on a doorknob. He was quiet and, because he didn't speak much English, I assume he was struggling with some sexuality issues. But getting caught sucking on a doorknob in middle school is just devastating, and the strange kid rumor mill. Remember, licking doorknobs is illegal on other planets. SpongeBob SquarePants. He was an alien. It all makes sense now. He fled his home planet in order to pursue his doorknob licking addictions. What a rebel. I went to the weird high school, so there are a lot, but my personal favorite was the jetpack kid. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and no matter where he was going, he was running, flat out, with his hands in fists and his arms tucked under his backpack, like they were the nozzles for his jetpack. Combined all of his lunch food into a single pile, ate it like a miner looking for valuable ore, while using every condiment the school provided. I can never forget one time he added corn, green beans, hot sauce, mayo, mustard, relish and a roll. It's been 20 years or so, I may not be accurate, to his pizza. Just started gobbling away, like every other day that ends in Y. I happen to be looking right at him, see him pause, stare straight ahead, not at me, just into nowhere, for an awkward 5 seconds, leans over and pukes all over the walkway between tables. He sits right back up, with the same awkwardness as before. He continues staring into space, just as the janitor arrives to spread wood dust, or whatever it is, on the puke. The kid starts eating the amassed pile of food he has collected again. The janitor's face while he cleaned the puke, right next to the kid who puked it up. I always remember, it clearly and non-verbally said, "This kid has some serious issues." The kid continued to eat the amalgamation of food and stare into space as the janitor just cleaned it up, clearly thinking he was not paid enough to do this. They never are. He would have conversations with himself under his breath like Gollum. In the middle of one of these rage-filled arguments, he would pull out his handgun and shoot people in the class. All our teachers ever said was, "Hey, no guns." He also made notes that we would occasionally find, one specifically on why the person who sat behind him in math deserved to die. But then he found Facebook and other online communities and calmed down a bit. All our teachers ever said was, "Hey, no guns." Wow. My 4-year-old made a laser gun from Legos and we had to have a meeting about it. I got expelled from pre-K for pretending to be in a gunfight during nap time. The teacher said I was spitting on the other kids while they tried to sleep. Whatever. They should just be happy I was giving them cover fire so they could rest up. This kid named David would always sing Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls with a lot of emotion at the top of his lungs and sit Indian style on his chair and rock back and forth. I thought this was weird until I tried it and I love it. Also, this girl named Heather would try to bite people if they approached her. which I also tried and loved. Dude, sounds like these people inspired you instead of weirding you out. Maybe it's the odd ones who teach us to fly, and I don't want the world to see any, because I don't think they'd understand. And when everything's meant to be broken, I just want you to know WHOIAM. There was a kid who drove to each classroom in high school. He would make the noises, throw it in reverse to avoid hallway traffic, and slam the brakes to pick up girls and drive them to class. He had his favorite girls and he would buy them new cars and ask them how they liked the interior new car smell, etc. on their drive to class. Side note, he had breath like that SpongeBob episode where the green fog leaked out of his mouth every time he opened it. This was all inside my high school. It was a closed campus. The dude really liked cars. When I was in 7th grade there was a kid whose last name was Rocha, and since he invariably smelled like pungent cat piss, he was called the Roach and teased constantly by most kids at my school. I never spoke to him until I shared a summer school class with him, and he was assigned to me as a partner for a project. After getting to know him better, I realized he was perfectly normal. He liked video games and TV shows, his only immediately noticeable flaw being his terrible stench. About a week before our presentation was due, he's not in his seat in class. The teacher informs us he drowned in a canal over the weekend. I was shocked, mainly because I had seen him just a few days earlier. I felt especially horrible when kids I knew started joking about how he finally took a bath. I lost a couple friends for yelling at them about how they were awful people and how he was a nice guy. My only regret is that I hadn't spoke to him sooner. He could have used a friend during the short time he was here. RIP Andrew Rocha. Oh, awesome. I finally get to tell this story. There was a girl in my high school named Annie. I got sat next to her in my junior year English class. Everything seemed cool at first. Maybe she was a little awkward but nothing terrible. Then the teacher had us pair up and make posters listing all of the IB profile traits. It's like AP except not. And she forgot the second I in the word inquirer. No biggie. When I pointed it out she froze, staring at the poster. No, she finally said very aggressively, "There isn't one." A dark red hue began to slowly crawl up her neck. I pointed at the poster next to us. "No, there is. No big deal. There's space between the two letters to squeeze it in." She's staring at me now. Her face was a horrible crimson, and the veins on her temple began to stand out. I started to panic a little. What do I do here? I mean, we don't have to. It's not like this assignment matters, I said dismissively, hoping she'd cool down. No, she grabs the poster and crumples it in her hand, not looking away from me. "It matters," she screams, spit hitting my face. She slams her fist down on the desk, whips around, tears up the paper poster, and beelines for the door. Everyone is staring now, and she runs into a chair, slamming her shin into the seat and stumbling over it. Finally she makes it to the door and screams repeatedly in the hallway. I quickly find out that this is a weekly occurrence for her. Everyone had a story of her crying in class or screaming at people for insignificant reasons. Unfortunately, this was only the first day of a horrible year ahead. Sitting next to Annie in English. Update. This was over 2 weeks ago and I made this post on my throwaway, signed out, and forgot forever. Wish I hadn't missed the IB conversations. Also, her name wasn't actually Annie, just in case anyone actually reads this now.